The morning on Maple Street began with its usual tranquility. Sarah Mitchell had just finished her routine garden maintenance and settled into the rocking chair on her porch. The cool autumn breeze gently caressed her graying hair. "Good morning, Sarah." A woman in jogging attire waved as she walked by. For Sarah, who had spent 35 years teaching elementary school, such friendly greetings were part of daily life. Many of her former students were now raising their own children on Maple Street. "Oh my, look at the time." Sarah checked her watch and quickly stood up. Tuesdays and Thursdays were her days to take her grandson Lucas to Happy Kids Daycare Center. Her eyes fell on the family photo displayed in the entryway, showing her son James, his wife Emily, and Lucas with his adorable smile. James had become a mid-level project manager at Boston Tech, while Emily worked from home as a web designer. With both parents busy on Tuesday and Thursday mornings, Sarah had made it her habit to handle the daycare drop-offs. "Grandma." Lucas's energetic voice echoed as he bounded down the stairs. At just 5 years old, he had an extraordinary ability to bring smiles to everyone around him. "Lucas, put your coat on. It's a bit chilly this morning." Sarah picked up his blue coat and helped him into it gently. Happy Kids Daycare Center was a cheerful building nestled in a quiet residential area. Known for its 15 years of trusted service to the community, it had become a neighborhood institution. "Good morning, Sarah." Kate Wilson, the head teacher, greeted them with her usual gentle smile. She was well respected by parents for her mild temperament and proven childcare skills. "Miss Kate." Lucas ran happily toward Kate. The sounds of children who had already arrived could be heard from inside. Full of energy as always. Kate gently patted Lucas's head while smiling at Sarah. Just then, an unfamiliar young teacher appeared. "Good morning. I'm Jessica Miller. I'm starting work here today." The teacher, who appeared to be in her mid-20s, introduced herself with a somewhat nervous expression. Her neat appearance and sincere demeanor conveyed her enthusiasm for the job. The new name tag around her neck gleamed under the fluorescent lights. "Jessica, this is Lucas. You'll be in charge of him today." Head teacher Kate explained rather hastily before quickly heading to the office. There was something unsettled about her manner. Miss Kate. What about the children with allergies?" Jessica called out anxiously, but Kate's response was surprisingly brief. "The basic precautions are written on the whiteboard in the staff room. Handle things as they come up." Sarah felt a slight unease at this dismissive response. Usually, Kate would give new staff much more detailed instructions, especially regarding children's health matters. She was known to be almost overly cautious about such things. However, this thought was interrupted by her phone ringing. Sarah was surprised to see Emily displayed on the screen. It was unusual for her to call at this time of day. "Mom, I'll pick him up today." "Emily. What's the matter? Aren't you usually busy with work at this time?" "Well, there's something about James." There was an unusual tension in Emily's voice, a hesitant tone that made Sarah uneasy. "Did something happen?" "No, not exactly. I'm sorry, I can't say more over the phone." That morning, activities at the center seemed to flow as usual. The new teacher Jessica was enthusiastically engaging with the children, and other staff members carried out their normal care programs. However, there was an unsettling atmosphere created by Kate's occasional muttering from the office and her unusually frequent checking of her mobile phone. At 2 p.m., fate struck suddenly. "Teacher. Lucas. Lucas is having trouble breathing." A sudden cry echoed through the facility during snack time. The new teacher Jessica was holding Lucas, who had turned pale. His small body was shaking violently, and his lips were beginning to turn purple. "His breathing is labored. His color isn't good. Someone help." Jessica's voice trembled with panic. The surrounding children began crying anxiously, and the center quickly descended into chaos. While other teachers rushed to help, Kate was nowhere to be seen. At 2:15 p.m., emergency services were called. As the sound of sirens approached, the center's phone wouldn't stop ringing with concerned parents' inquiries. At 2:25 p.m., the police arrived unexpectedly early. Usually, ambulances arrive first, but for some reason, police vehicles were the first on the scene. Uniformed officers quickly entered the facility and headed for the office. At 2:30 p.m., Sarah's phone rang. "Mom. Come quickly. Lucas. Lucas." Sarah's heart pounded at Emily's distraught voice. Seeing her usually composed daughter-in-law so upset made it impossible not to imagine the worst. "Emily, stay calm. I'm coming right now." The moment she hung up, Sarah jumped into her car. She made the usually 15-minute drive in a desperate 10 minutes, not even minding running red lights. When Sarah arrived at the facility, she was met with the unusual sight of 3 police cars lined up. Worried parents had begun gathering in the playground, and uniformed officers stood at the entrance, restricting access to authorized personnel only. "Mrs. Mitchell." A stern-looking detective was waiting for her at the entrance. He appeared to be in his mid-50s, his deeply lined face bearing the tension of someone who must deliver serious news. "There's some security camera footage we need you to see." His voice carried a mixture of sympathy and resolve. Led by the detective to a small surveillance room, Sarah entered a windowless space where multiple monitors cast a bluish light. A young female detective was checking timestamps while operating a keyboard. "You need to see this." The footage displayed on the monitor would change Sarah's world forever. It can't be." Covering her mouth with trembling hands, Sarah was transfixed by the footage. It revealed an unbelievable reality: the image of her son James, the head teacher Kate, and undeniable evidence of a relationship that should never have existed. From outside, the sound of approaching ambulance sirens could be heard. "This is footage from 9:15 a.m. this morning." The detective pointed to a monitor showing Kate at a computer in the office, operating it in a clearly agitated manner, quite different from normal business operations. Her occasional glances around, checking if anyone was watching, highlighted the abnormality of her actions. This is the screen she was accessing. Another monitor displayed the center's child management system. Lucas Mitchell's personal file was open, and allergy information items were being systematically deleted. The red warning text reading, "Peanut allergy, severe," disappeared with the cursor's movement. And this is footage from last Tuesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Sarah's eyes fell upon two figures meeting secretly at the facility's back entrance. In the dim twilight, there was no mistaking who they were: Kate Wilson and her son James. The sight of them speaking intimately made Sarah's chest tighten. We also have footage from yesterday. The next images showed the two arguing intensely. Though there was no sound, Kate could be seen crying and pleading while James shook his head in distress. "Mrs. Mitchell, I apologize, but there's more evidence we need to show you." The young detective handed over a tablet showing screenshots of message app conversations. "This can't be the end. What we had was special. Should I tell Emily, or will you? Please, reconsider. 6 months of inappropriate messages. And the final message from 3 days ago. Stop contacting me. This was all a mistake." Sarah's knees gave out. The young detective rushed to support her as she collapsed into a chair. "My son, how could my son?" Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Waves of intense anger and deep sorrow washed over her. "Currently, suspect Kate Wilson is voluntarily cooperating with our investigation." The veteran detective's voice seemed to come from far away. "What about Lucas? My grandson?" The female detective gently responded to Sarah's barely whispered words. "The paramedics have arrived and administered first aid. We've been informed his condition is stable." While feeling slight relief at these words, Sarah's mind was still in turmoil. A trusted teacher's premeditated harmful act. Her son's affair. And above all, the fact that her beloved grandson had been put in danger. In the corner of the room, the young detective was checking computer operation records. According to the system logs, suspect Wilson accessed Lucas's health records multiple times over the past week. Everything was connecting. The inadequate handover to the new teacher. Emily's strange phone call. And the oddity in Kate's behavior today. "Mrs. Mitchell." The veteran detective began carefully choosing his words. "Your grandson's accident was no coincidence. This was clearly an intentional." Before he could finish his sentence, the room's door burst open. "Mom." It was James's voice. He stood there out of breath, his appearance disheveled, quite different from his usual neat suit and tie. Sarah turned slowly toward her son. Her eyes held a mixture of sadness, anger, and deep disappointment. In the heavy atmosphere of the surveillance room, James slowly sank into a chair against the wall. His expression mixed fear of the truth he must now tell with resignation to the inevitable confession. "I'll tell you everything." James's hoarse confession went back to a rainy evening 6 months ago. It was a day when he was later than usual for pickup. An important presentation at Boston Tech had run long, and he didn't arrive to pick up Lucas until after 6 p.m. The facility was already quiet, with head teacher Kate the only staff member remaining. From that day, things gradually changed. James's voice trembled. She was such an understanding listener. She would hear my work complaints, sometimes offer precise advice. Police investigation revealed that their secret meetings gradually became more frequent. What started as casual conversations at the facility evolved into meetings at nearby cafes. And then, one day in August, they crossed a line that should never have been crossed. But it was wrong. James covered his face with both hands. Thinking about Emily was torturous. Every time I saw Lucas's face, I felt like my chest would burst with guilt. Meanwhile, Kate's behavior had also changed day by day. Her initial composure disappeared, gradually turning into obsessive behavior. The facility staff had begun to notice changes in her demeanor. According to the suspect's statement, the young detective explained while looking at documents. She wanted to continue her relationship with Mr. Mitchell so desperately that she planned to destroy his relationship with his wife. Kate's plan was meticulous. She deliberately assigned the new teacher Jessica to Lucas's care while omitting crucial information during the handover. She deleted allergy information from the system, ensuring an allergic reaction during snack time. Then she intended to frame it as Emily's neglect of parental duties. When I tried to end the relationship, Kate changed completely. James's voice broke. I never imagined she would, that Lucas. How could you not notice? Sarah's quiet but anger-filled voice resonated. You're his father, aren't you? How could you not notice your child was in danger? The security camera footage revealed even more shocking facts. Images of Kate altering Lucas's personal file in the office. Scenes of her deliberately giving incorrect instructions to the new teacher Jessica. And the decisive moment when she secretly mixed peanut oil into the snacks. Our investigation has shown. The veteran detective continued quietly. That Wilson has exhibited similar, obsessive behavior patterns in the past. She was forced to resign from her previous childcare facility due to a relationship with another father. The room's atmosphere froze at these words. Mom. Emily. I'm truly sorry. James's words of apology rang hollow. At that moment, the young female detective hurried into the room. Wilson has confessed. Everything, the details of the plan, the motive. Sarah sighed deeply while looking at her grandson's smiling face on the monitor. That smile had almost been lost forever today. This fact weighed like lead on her heart. In her interrogation, she stated. The detective read from the statement, the words hanging heavy in the air. I deserve happiness too. But James, he only had eyes for Emily. So In the corner of the room, James just hung his head in silence. The weight of his irreparable mistake bore down heavily on his shoulders. In a small interview room at the police station, Emily clutched a coffee cup with trembling hands. The afternoon sunlight streaming through the window illuminated her exhausted expression. Actually, I had noticed. Her voice quivered slightly. I noticed James's behavior changing bit by bit. It started with subtle changes. Overtime increased, and his return home gradually became later. Even on weekends, he frequently checked his email, sometimes distracted by messages from someone. He kept his phone close, his expression strangely tense when looking at the screen. At first, I thought he was just busy with work. Emily looked out the window. But somehow, Lucas's pickup days had become only Tuesdays and Thursdays. Kate's change in attitude was also obvious to her. The head teacher, who had once been warm and friendly, gradually became cold toward her. While maintaining intimate conversations with other parents, she clearly treated Emily differently. It was last week. Emily's voice grew quieter. When I went to pick up some documents from the daycare, I happened to overhear their conversation. A private discussion between her husband and Kate behind the facility. Kate pleading about something urgently while James shook his head in confusion. That scene left a deep wound in Emily's heart. "That's why I called you this morning, Mom." Wiping away tears, Emily continued. "I wanted to talk about it, but I never imagined things would turn out like this." Meanwhile, shocking testimonies from the facility staff continued to emerge. Kate had been acting strange lately. The new teacher, Jessica, testified to the police. Even this morning, the handover was very careless. Usually, she's especially thorough about explaining allergies, but today of all days. Other caregivers also provided testimonies supporting Kate's changes. It seemed like her personality changed about 6 months ago. She suddenly started saying she'd work overtime whenever Mr. Mitchell came for pickup. Her way with the children changed too, becoming oddly overprotective, especially with Lucas. At Boston Children's Hospital's intensive care unit, various medical devices were attached to Lucas's small body. The regular beeping of the heart rate monitor quietly echoed through the room. "He's doing fine. We've passed the worst." Dr. Thompson's words made the entire family sigh with relief. The allergic reaction was severe, but early detection and prompt treatment were effective. Sitting in a chair by the window, Sarah reflected on the past 24 hours while watching her sleeping grandson. Kate's arrest, James's confession, Emily's tears, and above all, the terror of Lucas's life being in danger. "We've heard from the lawyer." The young detective quietly entered the room. "Wilson has admitted to all charges. Attempted murder, personal information tampering, professional negligence." Among the serious charges, Kate admitted to everything straightforwardly. A psychiatric evaluation was scheduled, which could affect her sentence. "The facility also contacted us," Emily began while looking at her phone screen. "They've decided to close temporarily. They say they're going to completely review their operating system." Happy Kids Daycare Center was facing a major turning point because of this incident. An emergency explanation meeting was held for parents, and preventive measures were proposed. These included stricter staff hiring standards, implementation of a double-check system for health management, and above all, strengthening communication among staff members. Through the hospital room window, the twilight sky was visible. Sarah stood up and faced her son. "James." Her voice now held neither anger nor sadness. "What are you going to do?" James, who had been staring at the floor, slowly raised his head. I want to repair everything. My relationship with Emily, my bond with Lucas, and my trust with you, Mom. Emily silently listened to her husband's words. Complex emotions could be read on her face. We've been recommended family counseling. James continued. Once a week, with professional help. It will take time, but... Yes. Emily nodded slightly. For Lucas's sake, we need to move forward. Just then, a small voice came from the bed. Daddy. Mommy. Everyone rushed to Lucas as he awakened. His small hands gripped both his parents' hands simultaneously. Tears fell unbidden from Emily's eyes. Grandma too. At Lucas's voice, Sarah joined them. 4 hands overlapped. It seemed like a symbol of a new beginning. The family's healing process began the following week. Family counseling every Saturday, family meetings every Sunday. Slowly but surely, their nearly broken trust was being rewoven in a new form. Lucas transferred to a new daycare center. Although he was anxious at first, with the help of his kind teacher, Ms. Brown, he gradually regained his smile. Yesterday, Lucas said something. One evening, Emily called Sarah. He said, I'm glad Daddy and Mommy made up. Sarah couldn't help but smile at those words. Her grandson's pure heart was healing the adult's wounds. It was like a small miracle. The local community also learned much from this incident. Other childcare facilities reviewed their safety management systems, and communication between parents and facilities became more open. On Christmas Eve that year, warm light glowed from Sarah's house on Maple Street. Outside the window, small snowflakes were falling quietly. Grandma, what's this ornament? In front of the Christmas tree, Lucas held up an old angel decoration. Oh, that. Sarah crouched next to her grandson. Your daddy made that when he was 5 years old. Just the same age you are now. From the living room came Emily's gentle laughter. In the kitchen, James was helping with dinner preparations, occasionally catching Emily's eye and sharing gentle smiles. It was a peaceful scene that would have been unimaginable 3 months ago. Hey, Grandma. Lucas suddenly looked up at Sarah with a serious face. Will Daddy and Mommy not fight anymore? Sarah gently stroked her grandson's head as she answered. Well, sweetie. They both think of you first, above everything else. So yes, they'll be all right. The weekly family counseling sessions continue. Regaining damaged trust isn't easy, but Sarah finds hope in seeing the 3 of them facing it together sincerely. At his new daycare center, Lucas has completely regained his cheerfulness. Reports from Ms. Brown that he's the class favorite and especially loves drawing time bring smiles to the family's faces. Everyone, dinner's ready. At Emily's call, the family gathered at the table. Traditional Christmas dinner was laid out. The aromatic smell of roasted turkey filled the room. Before we say grace, James began quietly. I want to say something to everyone." All eyes turned to him. "Thank you all for these past 3 months. Emily, Mom, and Lucas." His voice carried deep remorse and new determination. "I know there will still be challenges ahead. But I will never again betray my precious family." Emily silently took her husband's hand. The gesture suggested the budding of forgiveness and trust. "Yes. Let's eat." Lucas's bright voice broke through the solemn atmosphere. Outside the window, the snow was falling harder. The Christmas tree lights cast a warm glow across the room. The old angel ornament swayed gently, as if watching over this family's new chapter. The scars haven't completely healed yet. However, new bonds were definitely beginning to sprout. It was a priceless gift that only a family who had overcome trials could receive. This winter night became a witness to such small miracles.